Here we go. It is time for that second part of the summer of soccer to start. It is the Copa America. Copa America kicks off tomorrow night with Argentina in Canada. So I figured there's no better time to do a preview show than now. Of course, the Copa America, hosted and run by CONMEBOL, which is your South American federation, almost all the time just features the 10 nations of CONMEBOL. But in this somewhat special year, I guess I would say, aka they want to make more money, CONMEBOL has invited 6 CONCACAF teams to the Copa America here in 2024. So we will be seeing a total of 16 teams here at Copa America 2024. That will break down into obviously 4 groups of 4, with it being the top 2 teams advancing on to the round of 8. So we will have a round of 8 playoff, then a semifinal. This does have a third place game, so this is not like the Euro where if you lose the semifinal, you're just done. You do have a third place game. And of course, we have a final, which will be on the same day as Euro 2024 final in Berlin. The Copa America 2024 final will be in Miami. So that Sunday is going to be absolutely jam-packed with 2 finals in one day from 2 major confederations in all of soccer. So who do we have in this Copa America? Why don't we take a look? So in Group A, we have the defending champions and always perennial contenders. I mean, what other terms can you come up with for this team? Because there are none. This is Argentina. They're the best team in all of CONMEBOL. Technically, the best team in the world right now. Coming off the World Cup, of course. They are, multi-time champions of this tournament. They broke that 28-year streak, with their last win being in 1993 before winning in 2021. It was one of the major trophies missing on Messi's list. Of course, he was also missing a World Cup at that time. And during the COVID pandemic, Messi won his first ever international trophy. Your second team in Group B is another CONMEBOL member, and that is Peru. Peru, the white and red, Los Rojiblanca. They are a team that has quite fallen off as of recent years. They've only won the Copa America twice. They won it in 1939 and 1975. So we are approaching 49 years since they last won a Copa America. I'm not truly expecting a ton out of them this tournament. I don't really see them making it out of the group stage, just given that only the top 2 teams advance. Your third team in this group is going to be Chile. This team, of course, they're a little bit of a fall off, but I think they are recovering right now. 2-time champions. They won it in 2015. They won it in 2016, which, of course, was the last time the Copa America was held on U.S. soil for the Copa America Centenario. But for a team that has such storied history, it is a little bit surprising that they only have the 2 Copa Americas, I should say. But 2 is better than none. So for Chile, I think this is going to be an interesting tournament. We'll obviously get to them more in the breakdown. And then your one CONCACAF member in this group is Canada. Canada is playing in their first Copa America. They have never previously been invited, and they qualified for this one. It remains to be seen how they will play out. I think they have a talented squad, but just bringing in a manager a month ago might throw that into a bit of chaos. We move on to Group B, where your number 1 team in this group is, of course, Mexico. This team is in what seems to be complete free fall right now, but I'm sure they will figure something out here at the Copa America. They've been in the Copa America 11 times. The first time they were invited was 1993. Their best finishes were runners-up in that 1993 tournament, and they also finished runners-up in 2001. We move on to Ecuador, another CONMEBOL team. They seem to be on the road up. They put on a pretty good showing at, the World Cup in 2022. Now, given they weren't in a great group, they could show a little bit more. So it will be interesting to see what they can do here at the Copa America. They are two-time champions. They finished, their best result was fourth place in 1959 and 1993. We move on to another CONMEBOL member, and that is Venezuela. Venezuela has never truly been great at football. Their best finish in the Copa America, the 19 times they've been, was fourth place in 2011. It seems to be hope that they're kind of turning things around. I just don't truly see it. But hey, I choose to believe in them at some points. And then we get to the other CONCACAF member of this group, and that is Jamaica. The Reggae Boys are in the Copa America for the second time, or for the third time, I should say, in their history, with their first appearance being in 2015, their second being in that Copa America Centenario in 2016. It will be interesting to see what the Reggae Boys do in this tournament. We move on to Group C, where we have the United States of America. Of course, the Stars and Stripes, the Yanks, whatever you want to call them, have had an interesting run-in to this Copa America, which will be their sixth appearance. As their best finishes have been fourth place, which was both in 1995 and 2016. We move on to a just solidified CONMEBOL member, a Copa America staple, and that is Uruguay. They have not won a Copa America since 2011, but the 15-time champions look on the rise up under manager Marcelo Bielsa. It's going to be quite interesting to see what this Uruguay team does on this stage, because it feels like if there is a dark horse of this tournament to win it, it would be them. We move on to another CONCACAF member, and that is Panama. They have made their second appearance in the Copa America, their first one being in 2016 in that Copa America Centenario. That, of course, tournament was expanded so that it could host a similar tournament to like we have this year. We move on to the final member of Group C, and that is Bolivia from CONMEBOL. Another team kind of like Venezuela. They've never really been good, but I mean, when you have 10 teams in a whole confederation, it kind of influences things, if we're honest. So we move on. They have won the Copa America once, and that was in 1963. We now move on to Group D, and of course, the big hitters of CONMEBOL. One of them is Argentina. Of course, the other one is Brazil. Brazil, you would expect them to have dominated this tournament, but they truly haven't. They only have 9 Copa America titles. I mean, when you compare that to, the likes of Uruguay or Argentina, it does seem like a little bit, but this team, I think they are flying right now. They look to be quite good, and it's going to be hard to see any team stopping them up to that final when they would most likely face Argentina. We move on to another solidified CONMEBOL team, that is Colombia. The 2001 Copa America champions make their 24th appearance here at the Copa America. We move on to another CONMEBOL member, and that is Paraguay. They are quite similar to both Bolivia and Venezuela. They're just not great, but I mean, they can give you quite good matches. They are two-time champions here at the Copa America. They won in 1953 and 1979. And we move on to the 16th and final team here at this Copa America, and that is Costa Rica. They are making their 7th appearance here in the Copa America. Their best finish has been the quarterfinals in 2001 and 2004. So there are your 16 teams that will be in the United States of America for this Copa America. Now, it is an expanded tournament. I love the idea of that. I love that, CONMEBOL has allowed CONCACAF, teams in this tournament. I think that's great. I think having, a 10-team tournament, 2 groups of 5, it just kind of sucks. I kind of like the 4 groups of 4, 16 teams. I'd like to see this become more permanent. I don't know if that's something CONMEBOL is more interested in, but if we're doing that, I truly want it to be in South America. I get coming up here every once in a while, but I mean, we just hosted it in 2016. We're going to host it this year. I believe there's only been 2 Copa Americas in between there. So, and it's a weird format of how, they host. I think it's like a rotation, but it's also, you can decide to opt out of your rotation, which I think is kind of dumb. But I personally would like to see this tournament more in South America than in, NFL stadiums that just, they lack the environment that you would see in South America. Like if we send, like the Argentina-Canada game tomorrow will be in Atlanta. That I won't say, it will be, but that most likely will be a dull environment. I'm sure that Argentina are going to bring some outstanding fans and liven up the place. But I mean, if that game was, in, let's say, Argentina, or if it was in Paraguay or in Bolivia, I think there would be a much more entertaining environment that I would be more keen to watch than it would be in a NFL stadium that has been somewhat retrofitted for soccer. So that's kind of just my thoughts on that. But we're going to go back to look at the group so I can kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking at in this tournament. So I figured I'd kind of just give you an idea of what I'm kind of thinking. Argentina, it doesn't have to be said. It's Messi. It's, this whole team. Emi Martinez. You got Giovanni Lo Celso. You got so many great players mixed in here. Like I said, I would be quite surprised if they are not in the final. I just don't see it. I don't see a way for them to lose. The other team I'm looking at to advance here in this group is Chile. Peru, I just don't have a ton of faith in. Canada, I don't love that they just appointed Jesse Marsch like a month ago. This seems like it's Alexis Sanchez's last dance. I feel like he's been playing forever, so surely this has to be. And I did go out and reach out today to one of my good friends, Jethro, who is from Chile, because truly, I didn't know a ton about this Chile team. I kind of wanted to get some ideas on what we were thinking about with this team. From what he said, this team has improved a lot since they're not calling up some of the old guard that won the tournament in 2015 and 2016. We kind of see that affecting some teams in the Euros right now. They keep calling up players that probably shouldn't be called up anymore. The new coach has, established a more fluid and, team-based type play, which you see starting to develop more and more in the international game. So I think this should be a big help for Chile. And of course, like I said, you got Alexis Sanchez in this team. But he said also to look out for Victor Deliva, who plays at CSKA Moscow in Russia, and Marcelo Nunez, who plays for Norwich City. Those are some key players you should be watching out for with Chile. Of course, if you're looking for Vidal, he is not in this squad. That was a choice of the manager, which, again, I somewhat agree with. I think, tapping out of some of the old guard is kind of a smart decision. I mean, if we truly look at it, those Copa Americas were 9 and 8 years ago. Those players are not the same age they were 9 and 8 years ago. So they will have fallen off since then. And as soon as you start to, fall off like that, you got to start making changes. And I think that's what Chile is doing, because they failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2022. And it felt like that kind of was a bit of the problem, was a lot of that old guard was still around. And now that you're not calling them up, feels like it's time to develop the new talent. We'll be excited to see what Chile do here. Group B, I liked Mexico coming into this tournament, but then after watching how they played in their warm-up games, they do kind of worry me. This Mexico team, it seems like the worst El Tri team, maybe of my lifetime, which obviously goes back to the beginning of the millennium, but this does seem like one of the worst Mexico teams. They just don't have talent developing. And any dual nats seem to be going to the U.S., even though they don't seem to get as much play time. I still think Mexico get out of the group, but they do worry me because I don't know what to really expect from them, to be honest. The other team I like here is Ecuador. Like I said, I thought they put on a decent performance at the World Cup. I know they weren't in the best of groups, but I expect them to do well here. I think they're better than the other two teams here, and I expect to see them advance. And of course, they are managed by Felix Sanchez-Baz, who was the manager for Qatar at the 2022 World Cup. He, of course, played against Ecuador in that first game of the tournament. And it is quite interesting because he was manager for Qatar from 2017, I believe, up until that tournament. And then once that tournament was over, he was gone just because of how disastrous of a performance Qatar put up. Ecuador picked him up after they sacked their manager after the World Cup. So it's kind of a weird trade-off there. We move on. We'll move on to Group C. I will keep saying this, and I will preach it as much as I have to. The U.S. is not winning this group. Uruguay is going to win Group C. I 100% believe that. They are playing at a level right now that truly is quite stunning. Marcelo Bielsa, the former Leeds manager, I believe he was the former Chile manager at one point. He has this team rolling. I would not be shocked to see Uruguay in a semifinal. Past that, I don't know. I think they're a bit of a dark horse, but I just don't see anybody getting past Brazil or Argentina, depending on what side of the bracket you end up on. But this Uruguay team seems very dangerous. Now, I do think the USA finishes second in this group. I still think they make it to the quarterfinals, but I mean, that 5-1 loss to Colombia, I know you followed it up with a 1-1 draw against Brazil. That 5-1 loss, though, still, that just sticks with me. This team just does not seem prepared for this kind of stage that they're about to face at the Copa America. Now, truly, the only challenging game you're going to get before a knockout stage game is going to be that, Uruguay game that's going to be in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. You're not going to get a big challenge from Panama. You're not going to get it from Bolivia. And I do think this will be a big test for the U.S. because if they don't get a signature win in this tournament, which I am considering a signature win against Uruguay, Brazil, Argentina, maybe Colombia. If they do not get a win against any of these teams, I do think Greg Berhalter should be sacked. I do not think you can be going into the World Cup 2026 on your home soil with Greg Berhalter as your manager when he still lacks a major victory against a major opponent. I don't see how you can keep him employed when he cannot win you the big games. We saw how just tactically awful he was in that game against the Netherlands in Qatar. It was awful. It was terrible. And the fact that he got the job again still baffles me. I'm still stunned that he did, but I do think there should be a lot of pressure on his job in this tournament. And we move on to Group D. Brazil, of course, I think it's quite easy that they move on. I really like the way they're playing right now. The only thing is, I don't know if they win the group. I think they do win the group. I do think Colombia gives them a run for their money, though, because I think both teams roll through the other two opponents, Paraguay and Costa Rica. I think they both roll through them. When they face off against each other, that's going to be a quite interesting game. Because if Colombia can pull that off, they will end up winning this group, putting Brazil in the second place, which potentially means we may not get a Brazil-Argentina final if Argentina win their group. So a lot of things can play out here. So it's going to be quite an interesting Copa America. Now, given that, I just gave you basically all my predictions. The final, I mean, you could probably tell throughout the video, it's Argentina, Brazil. But this time around, as it's, I think it would be round 3 of them meeting up in the finals of the past 3 Copa Americas. I expect Brazil to get it done this time. I expect Brazil to walk away with the Copa America once again. Now, I know a lot of people are talking about, hey, is this a year, CONCACAF spoils the Copa America? Absolutely not. I think CONCACAF is at its lowest talent-wise right now. There's the U.S. and then there's everybody else. I know, Mexico has a few good players. Canada has a few good players. Most of those squads are meh at best. I'd even argue to say some of the players on the U.S. squad are meh right now. So it will be interesting to see. I 100% expect a CONMEBOL team to win this Copa America. Just whether it be Argentina, whether it be Brazil, maybe even a Uruguay. We'll see. So that's going to wrap it up for this Copa America preview. Thank you so much for watching. If you just stumbled across this video, click like, click subscribe. Tell anybody you know about it. We'll be back quite soon for recaps of each days. There will be previews for each matches on my Twitter at NickBird13. So make sure you go check those out. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again soon for another episode of Quick Kick Around the Pitch.